Hello beautiful people and welcome to the channel Life After Narc. My name's Debbie and I talk about all things to do with narcissistic, abusive and toxic relationships, as well as looking at healing from them. Today's topic is 13 things a narcissist is good at. Yes, narcissists can be very good at some things, and I'm going to go through 13 things shortly. Please stick around for the last one because that is the bestest thing that they do. Also, I just want to give a quick thanks, a quick shout out to Marco Polistena 8255. I want to thank you for your compliment. Marco said that great look, and he immediately called an exorcist. That's fine, but an exorcist won't work because I'm not Christian. I am in fact pagan, and so it wouldn't work. We don't work with demons in my faith. So I'm very sorry to let you know about that, but I love the compliment. I am a goth. I have dressed like this all of my life. Water off of a duck's back. So before I start with this 13 things a narcissist is good at, if you enjoy the content of the video, please click the like button. Please subscribe to the channel and share with your friends, people who you think may benefit from this, people who you think need this sort of information to help them get through a narcissistic, abusive or toxic relationship. So, 13 things that a narcissist is good at. Well, there's a little bit of, in the title of this. Number 1, they ruin a special occasion. Now, I would love to hear your stories below in the comments of what the narcissist ruined for you in your life. But they are very, very good at ruining special occasions. I remember when my next left me, it was my birthday shortly after that, and he got one of his flying monkeys to send me messages that were absolutely horrific and upsetting and just factually incorrect. So I did go to the police with that and logged it with the police and have a reference number in case that person ever does it again. And I would advise you to do the same. If you are receiving toxic, abusive messages from a flying monkey, that is somebody who is a friend of the narcissist, who is on their side and is saying, as part of the smear campaign, saying horrible things about you, then please keep records of it, screenshot them, and let the police know, just in case you need to build a case in the future. So they ruin special occasions. Mine also ruined my father's funeral, for me at least, and for the experience that I had and moving forwards in the future. I had asked him, because he had mentioned earlier in the year that he was thinking of leaving me, but we hadn't sat down and had a conversation and it hadn't been confirmed. And he said, I said to him, if you are going to leave, please don't sit next to me at the funeral. So he sat next to me at the funeral and held my hand. And so I thought, well, then he's not leaving me, is he? He's going to be here for me. Yeah, after the funeral, he left. Well, it was a week or two after, because I'd spent time with my mum helping her get through her grief. So they ruined that special occasion. He made my grieving process for my father all about grieving for him. Wonderful people. They're so good at it. Number 2, they mistreat their own children. Now, I don't have children. I had a miscarriage and then went into menopause. So unfortunately, it wasn't going to happen for us. But by mistreating their own children, I'm sure some of you who do have children will be able to tell me this and will be able to give me a little bit more detail. But from what I have seen of abusive relationships with children involved, when the partner has left, the narcissist has left, they use the children as pawns to sort of get their own way within the relationship. They want the children on these weekends, they want the children on these days, and the woman generally has to go to court. Here in the UK, they get a group called CAMS involved, which is Children and Mental Health Services, to help with the child and gauge the relationship of the child with the parents and how that works. So CAMS get involved to help set up visitation rights, and it may well be that sometimes visitation has to take place in a environment where the parent in question can be seen. So it may be in an enclosed space, perhaps in a room where there are other people who can watch and make sure that nothing happens. But yeah, they mistreat their own children, perhaps by calling them stupid, by telling them all sorts of derogatory things about themselves. They're not good enough, they're stupid, they don't know what they're doing, instead of being the parent who teaches their child and instead says to their child, oh yeah, I see what you've done there, but have a look at this. This is a better way of doing things. So instead of calling the child stupid, they're teaching the child. It always bugs me, and it always has bugged me when I see a couple walking down the street and one of the couple will say, you're stupid, you are, you don't know what you're doing, and blah, 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 blah. And then they smack the child. And I just think that child is going to be so traumatized when they grow up. And they're going to go through exactly the same as what their parents are going through. So, number 3, they treat strangers better than their loved ones. And again, this is something I'd love to see in the comments below if you've ever experienced anything like this. But my narcissistic ex did treat strangers better than he treated me. There's an incident that I spoke of recently in another video, can't remember which one it was, where we were in the supermarket and I was pushing the trolley and he'd gone down a different aisle to go get something else. Anyway, so as I was pushing the trolley, it was around Christmas time, so it was very busy, but this man came pushing past me and really knocked into me. And now I've been the victim of several upskirting incidents or fondling incidents in the past in public places. So it is something that does scare me. I do feel, very, open to this. It just seems to happen to me. And so I shouted at the man and said, what are you doing? Who do you think you are? And my husband came back around the corner, and instead of coming to me to find out what had happened and why I was so upset, he went up to this person and said, oh, I'm really sorry. Not 1 ounce of shit given towards my feelings at all and what I had just experienced. Nada. Nothing. Number 4, they will kick you when you're down. And yeah, I'm going back to the funeral now when my father passed away. The leaving that he did after my father passed, that he left without a word to me. I got back from my mum's and he was gone. And, when you're down, you've just lost your father, you've just spent the last 4 months caring for him on a personal level, cleaning your father, feeding your father, helping him to get from the bed to the commode, and spending those last weeks with him and making his last weeks perfect for him and as comfortable for him as they could be. I get home in the state of frustration, upset, and all I wanted to do was have somebody to hold me and say, everything's going to be okay. Instead, there was nobody here, and I was told, oh, I've left. And you'll notice some things missing around the house. And not only had he taken his own things, but he'd taken things like pieces of crockery and cutlery and tea towels and bath towels and just the most random, bizarre shit that he took with him. Just like, yeah, kick me when I'm down. Why don't you? Just kick me when I'm down. Number 5, they will twist everything you say. Oh, and I'm sure that you have had this in your life. And this is gaslighting. This is where the gaslighting comes in these relationships. I remember being suicidal at one stage, and he would say things to me like, oh, you're not suicidal, you're just being, you're just trying to get my attention, and so on and so on. No, I actually was suicidal and had, taken an overdose, or I had cut myself. This was real. This was real life. And They will say things such as, well, you did this and you did that. If you are saying to them, look, what you did here, you did this. And they will say, but you did this. And I'm going to go through some gaslighting terms here so you can get an idea of what gaslighting is all about. So number one, that never happened. So they'll say to you, that never happened, didn't happen at all. And this was something that happened to me towards the end of the relationship. He had me pinned down on the floor by the throat and wouldn't let go of me. And I did lay charges after the relationship was over. I did lay charges with the police against this. And he lied and said it never happened. That is the way that they will be. They will say these things never happened. So they will do something abusive and then deny it. You're crazy and other people think so too. Well, number one, I probably am crazy for having spent so much time with him. Number two, you know, my own mental health during that relationship was hell. I was a mess, an absolute mess. I went from this person who had her own yoga studio, who was full of life, who ran 10Ks every day, who had volumes of friends, who had, you know, so much social life, to this minuscule, minute part of myself that had nothing. The studio was closed. I was gone. I was terrified of going out. I was terrified of seeing people. I was terrified of him. I'm sorry you think I did that to you. I don't think that you did that to me. I know that you did it to me because I was there. Do you really think I'd make that up? Well, yes, of course. You're just trying to confuse me. Now, they're the ones that are trying to confuse you, so they will use that as a tactic to get out of responding or explaining themselves. You know I'd never intentionally hurt you, but you would unintentionally hurt me, okay? So what is it? I did it because I love you. Right. You see, this is the conundrum, isn't it? They did it because they love you, but people who say that don't actually love you. You're too sensitive. Well, I know I'm a sensitive person. I'm an empath, and that's why I am going through this hell that I've been through over the last year from this toxic relationship. And yes, the things you said to me were horrendous, were awful, and would hurt anybody, whether they were sensitive or not. You should have known how I would react. I'm not in your head. How would I know how you're going to react? You know, you throw your toys out of the cot, you chuck your dummy out, you wave your arms and stamp your feet. There was an incident where he wanted a member of his family to come and stay with us, and my immediate answer was no, because I knew what would happen and I knew what would ensue from this moving in. And he had the temper tantrum, went storming off upstairs, you know, bump, 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 bump up the stairs. And eventually I did capitulate into this, and exactly what I thought would happen did actually happen. But, you know, of course I was wrong. That's just nonsense. You read it on the internet. It's not real. Okay, so a lot of what we read on the internet isn't real. We know that. We know there's a lot of BS out on the internet. But is it nonsense? Is your point of view nonsense? Is what you believe in nonsense? You know, if you are a Christian and believe in Christ, is that nonsense? To the narcissist, if they're not Christian, yes, it's nonsense. Is what I believe in as a pagan nonsense? To the narcissist who's not pagan, yes, it's nonsense. Do you care about it? I don't care if he says it's nonsense, because that's my belief, but some of us will. And again, it's that making you out to be sensitive, making you out to be, oh, you know, this hurts me too much. But we all have a right to say that. We all have a right in our lives, in ourselves, to say, This is hurting me. You need to stop this. I don't enjoy this kind of treatment. It's not that bad. Other people have it way worse. Okay, and a lot of us do our self-gaslighting techniques here, and I know that I'm one of them. And I will say to myself, well, my life's not that bad. There are other people out there who have it worse than me. Meanwhile, I've gone through probably 14 suicide attempts and various narcissistic, abusive and toxic relationships, attempted rape, attempted strangulation, being pinned down to the floor, you name it, I've been through it. But there is always somebody else worse off than me out there, somebody who has perhaps had their children that have been abused in that way, or a child who was sexually abused. But by saying that, we are minimizing our own experience. And by saying that to you, your narcissist is basically saying, you are minimized, you are not important. This is more important than you. So that's something to bear in mind with your healing as well as you move forwards, is try not to self-gaslight. You deserve your healing, okay? You don't really feel that way. Well, who the hell are you to tell me how I feel? You're not in my body. You're not in my head. I'm worried about you. You keep forgetting things. Yeah, because my head's full of your BS. Again, you know, they will gaslight you. They will make you forget things, and they will tell you things happened, excuse me, that didn't happen. You have a terrible memory. No, I don't. But then I am in the menopause fog. So that is part of menopause, so I will use that as an excuse. But be careful if they tell you you have a terrible memory. You seem stressed. Not everyone can handle this. Basically, what they're saying to you is, you are not strong enough to deal with this situation, that you seem very stressed. Meanwhile, they're probably the one that has made you stressed about this situation. And by them telling you that you can't handle this, they're saying that you're just not strong enough, you're not good enough, you're not an adult enough to deal with this situation. So think about those are 15 things there. Think about those 15 things and how those things affect you from their gaslighting. As I said, that was point number 5. They twist everything that you say. So point number 6, they lie about everything and anything. The amount of lies my ex told me, I just cannot fathom. And thinking back now, when I've journaled about this and written about this, part of my healing process was to make a list of all the horrible things that he did to me. And I add things to that as I remember them. But the one thing that he lied about, which was a blatant lie, and he was caught out in it, was we'd gone to the bank. I had to deposit some money. This was when I owned the yoga studio, and I was depositing money, and he came with me. I didn't like carrying that amount of money on my own. And as we were going into the bank, this beautiful goth woman, oh, she was gorgeous. I mean, really stunning, walked in front of us, and I saw him clock her and like, oh, yeah, okay. You know, that's fine. We as women do it if we see an attractive man. There's nothing wrong with that at all. So I went to the counter, finished my business, and we left the bank. We went home. Later that evening, we were sat on the settee, and he said to me, oh, I need to show you this photograph of what the cat did earlier on. And as he opened his phone and his photographs, a picture of this woman came up. He'd actually taken a photograph of this woman in the bank without her knowledge to masturbate to, because he was a sex addict. And the heartbreak, heartache, the hurt that I felt that I wasn't good enough for him, that he would rather masturbate to a picture, a photograph of a woman he saw in a bank. And you know what he did? He said, it's not there, you didn't see anything. He actually lied to my face as I'd just seen this photograph. He went bright red, I threw him out, and I should have left him. I should have made sure that he didn't come back. But he hoovered me again, and he love bombed me, and I took him back stupidly. They will make you feel lonelier than ever before. Towards the end of the relationship, I had never felt so alone. Even now that I am actually alone, I don't feel as alone. I did at first. There is that loneliness at first of having that other person in the home with you, but then at the time he would be in the house and I would be sat in my room in my chair. I had this severe depression while he was with me, really severe, and I would just think, I'm so alone, nobody understands me, and I couldn't even speak to him about it. Excuse me. They will make you feel unworthy and unloved. And this is where we come towards the end of the relationship, and afterwards we go, I wasn't enough for them. I'm not good enough. I wasn't worthy of being with them. Let me tell you something, guys. You are worthy. You are more than enough. You don't need their BS in your life. You deserve better than them. Okay. 9, they will emotionally drain you. And it's draining, and it's tiring, and it's exhausting. You as an empath are with this narcissist, and they will constantly take your emotions from you. They take all of that beautiful energy that you have. They take it for themselves. It's part of their supply. They will constantly belittle you, constantly make you feel less than. And again, you are more than. You are not less than. Make sure that you put yourself in that frame of mind when that relationship is over. They make you, number 10, they destroy your trust in human nature. Well, I can honestly say that I doubt that I will ever trust another partner in my life again after what I went through. Yes, I'm learning all about the red flags. I'm learning about myself, and I'm moving forwards with my healing and my therapy. And every day for me is healing. Even doing these videos for me is part of my healing process. It allows me to let off some steam to you people out there who are listening and watching and hopefully learning from some of this and my own experiences as well. They make you feel hopeless with yourself. And they can say some things when they leave that are so hurtful. And if you want to find out more about that, have a look at my video, the grand finale, when the narcissist leaves. I'll put a link to it below. So far, it's had 1,500 views, and it's my most viewed video on YouTube. But basically, when he left, he said some words to me that were hurtful, hateful, horrific. And I cannot believe that being with him for all that time, he actually said these words to me. He said, and don't forget that this was after my father had passed. He was 19 years younger than me. And he said to me that you've only got about 30 years left, and I don't want to be a miserable, lonely old man. And I want children. So basically what he was saying was that because I'm in my 50s, my father passed in his 80s, you know, going with the time frame, I've only got 30 years left. Meanwhile, he has 50 years left, for example. But even though he said his vows that he would be with me through, you know, all of my tribulations, ups and downs, he clearly didn't mean that. He clearly didn't want to stick with that, leaving me a miserable, lonely old woman. And then sticking the knife in my back. I want children, after I'd miscarried and after he'd said to me countless times, it doesn't matter, I didn't want children anyway. So they will say things like that to you, and you will feel hopeless. You will feel, what is the point of me being here? And that comes in with the dark night of the soul, and those times when we feel so depressed and so upset and so alone. And I'm going to link the Dark Night of the Soul video in the description box below as well, so you can have a watch of that if you need to. Number 12, they leave you with anxiety, exhaustion, and shame. And oh my God, the guilt that I carry to this day. It was always about housework. It was always about the fact that I didn't do enough housework or I wasn't working. I was very ill. Very, very ill. I still am very ill. And there were some days when I just needed to rest. But he would come home from work and, oh, you've not done the dishes again. So I would feel guilty. I would sit waiting for him to come home, waiting for him to say something to me to make me feel bad. And it's horrific to experience that, to experience this feeling they're not even there, and yet you feel guilt, you feel this shame. Number 13. This is the biggest point on this list, the biggest thing that they are good at. They devalue you, they betray you, they reject everything you ever gave them. Now, if like me, you gave them everything. When my ex first met me, he had nothing. He moved in with me after we were handfasted. That's pagan for marriage. And he moved into a home that was fully furnished. He had everything he wanted. There was always a fully stocked fridge. He was comfortable. He was warm. There was always heating when needed. There was a garden that he could enjoy. But then they make you feel unworthy in their betrayal. Perhaps they cheat on you. Did mine cheat on me? I think so. I have my suspicions. They'll cheat on you either physically or emotionally. They'll reject your love for them right at the end and all you did for them, and it means nothing to them. They don't care that they used you, and they did use you. They don't care about that. They only care about themselves and moving on and making sure that the rest of their life is perfect and good and happy. Again, sorry. So these 13 things here on this list are just some of the things that a narcissist is good at. I'd love to know if you have any other things to add to this list in the comments below. It'd be really interesting to see if I've missed anything. And how did they affect you when they used these terms or said these things to you? So if you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button. Please subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you next time. Blessed be.